All right, what's up, guys? This is Shane and Anil with k-pak. We're here to bring you 5 things that you need to know before you lease your next car. All right, we're going to start with number 5. You have your residual value. Okay, so residual is the predicted depreciation of the car, right? After the lease is up, it's a guaranteed like future value of the car. It's usually like around 50% or 60% of the original MSRP, right? Why is this important? The higher residual means that you're going to have a lower monthly payment, but that doesn't necessarily mean that later on after the end of the lease, if you were interested in maybe buying the car, right? When the lease is up, it's going to be much higher, right? So if your goal is you want to just buy the car at the end of the lease, then you should just buy it from the beginning, right? But if your goal is you want to have a lower monthly payment, then having a higher residual is not a bad idea. Keep in mind too that the lower mileage options that you go with, usually the residual will be 1 or 2% more or 3% more, depending on the type of car it is and things like that. The residual value is something that you cannot negotiate, right? This is one of the variables that when leases are calculated, it's set by the manufacturer, right? So don't think that you can go into a dealership and be like, hey, I want to negotiate a higher residual. Some people have this misconception, they think they can, but keep in mind that the dealership or anybody that works at the dealership has zero control over this number.
Another very important point when it comes to residual is that every manufacturer does residual differently. So if you're shopping cross brands, you cannot go to one brand. Even for the same MSRP car, the payments might not be the same because you can have a residual that's set at 60% and the next manufacturer will be at 70%, and there will be a huge difference between the payments for the same exact car. So it's just something for you to know that residual plays a very important role when it comes to leasing the car. So number 4 is that money factor is very, very important when it comes to leasing. Money factor is something that determines, it's kind of like the interest rate, what do you have in purchase. A lot of people are not sure what it really is that the higher the money factor, the higher the payment will be. Generally speaking, if you ask the dealer what the money factor is, the way it's on the leasing structure, it will be 0.00 and then some kind of number. It could be 3 zeros, 4 zeros. The lower the number is, the better the lease is. A lot of the leasing nowadays have low money factors, especially on the volume car, not the sports cars that much, which makes the leasing to buy a really good option because the interest rate on the money factor is a lot of times lower than when the interest rate on the purchasing car is.
It's kind of like, if you ask a dealership like, hey, what's the money factor here? The reason they're going to be a little bit hesitant about it is because it's kind of like asking, hey, what's the best interest rate, right? And they're going to be like, oh, well, we got to check your credit and all that stuff. Yes, it is credit based, right? But any dealership that is too hesitant to give this information to you, you want to kind of stay away from that. These days, everything you can find this kind of information on the internet, right? And what you want to do is you want to take that number, right? The 0.00, let's say for example like 0.00 like 1 something, right? Take that number 0.001 times 2400, right? 2400, and that will give you a rough idea of what the equivalent of the interest rate, the cost of money you're going to be paying on that lease. Okay, now there's a lot of different ways to kind of play with it, but always cross-check what you're doing with the information that you're seeing on the internet. A good resource will be like Edmunds. Edmunds, you can kind of plug in the model and the make and all that stuff, and then people post it all the time. So don't be afraid to ask for this information when you're sitting down at the dealership negotiating.
Generally, every dealer has a little bit of hold on the money factor, which is, obviously they have to make money for their business office as well. I think if you're shopping, be a little bit open to it. It's okay if they hold a little bit, but if they share the information with you and they tell you exactly how much they're holding, it's okay. But there are dealers that, generally big dealers, they do share a lot of this information, but if there's a dealer that's definitely hesitant not sharing the information, obviously there's something wrong there.
All right, number 3, you have your miles, right? Your estimated the miles per year that you're driving, right? The usual ones that you see on a lot of the advertisements is going to be like a 36 month or 10,000 miles a year. Okay, most leases in the country are going to be 3-year leases, right? 36 months, 10,000 miles a year. The average person drives about 1,000 miles per month, so you're really looking at about 12,000 miles a year on average, right? That's what the average American would drive, right? Commuting and weekend trips and whatnot. And the difference between 10,000 and 12,000 miles in terms of payment, it's not going to be much, right? So if you're sitting down and they tell you, okay, well, it's going to be $30 more if you do 12,000 miles a year, then something's not right there, right? It should only be like within like 10, maybe like $15 a month more, and you should be able to negotiate, hey, give me the 12,000 mile package for the 10,000 mile payment, right? If you did things right, then that should be something that the dealership should easily be able to do for you.
Another point when it comes to miles per year is that if you know you're gonna drive more, do not settle for less miles, because when you're signing up for the lease, you're paying 15 cents per mile up front. If you ended up going more than what you originally signed for, it ends up being 25 cents per mile, which definitely adds up. So if you're right on the edge between, let's say, 12,000 miles or 15,000 miles, definitely is worth paying extra $10, $12 a month. Go with a higher range, because you don't want to get stuck with 5,000 miles over and paying 25 cents per mile instead of 15 cents that you can buy during the lease. Number 2 is your down payment.
Down payment.
Now, a lot of dealers, when they build a lease, or if you see the online specials, obviously it's very exciting to see a $499 special on a $60,000 car, zero money out of pocket. But it's really not zero money out of pocket. It's with your taxes and fees out of your pocket, because for marketing purposes, when they say zero down, they don't know where the customer lives. You can live in 2 different states, different tax brackets, different everything. So all that is out of the specials on leases, and it's expected for you to pay out of your pocket in order for you to get to that special.
So the taxes are calculated based on which state that, how they calculate taxes on a lease, right? So know your state's taxes and how the taxes are calculated on leases. Typically, you don't want to put too much money down on a lease, right? When you see a lease special that says like, you'll be a $300 payment with $3,000 down, right? Which $3,000 plus all your taxes and fees, you're ending up coming out of pocket about, let's say your taxes are like a couple $1,000s, you may be coming out of pocket like $6,000 or $7,000, which I'm sure you weren't anticipating when you walked into the dealership. Maybe it makes sense for you to just pay your taxes and fees up front, but try to keep the upfront cost as low as possible. It's better to opt for a slightly higher payment, right, with less money up front, than trying to lower your payment as much as possible with a big chunk of money down. Then the leasing doesn't really make sense.
Another good point on the money down is that if your car was stolen, if your car was damaged or accidents or total, you do lose that money that you put down up front majority of the time right away. And we always tell clients, put enough down that you're covering your taxes and fees, and sometimes maybe not even that if the lease is really good anyways. But yeah, putting too much money out of pocket is definitely not the smartest thing on a lease that you can apply.
All right, so number 1 in our combined experience here that is the single most important factor, right, that determines what your lease is going to be is obviously the sale price of the car. Okay, and this is one variable that you can control, right? Because residual, like we talked about, we have zero control over. The money factor, it's kind of depends on your credit, so you kind of, if you're stuck in a credit bind or whatever the case is, then you don't have control there, right? But the sale price of the car, this is another item that you could easily research on the internet, right, to see which what the market is saying, right? And a good resource for this is sites like Edmunds, True Cars, Kelley Blue Book, but you could kind of combine them all and see which one's gonna show you the lowest. But the more discount you get off the car, it's gonna directly affect the monthly payment, right? The most way.
And another reason why we really think sale price is very important when it comes to leasing is because a lot of times when you walk into a dealership, now we're just generalizing, majority of the dealers are really upfront, especially if they're a big brand dealer, but when you walk into the dealership and you talk about lease, a lot of times dealers might try to just keep you around a payment. What payment are you trying to pay? What payment you're looking for? But you don't know if you're paying MSRP and they're just playing with the money factor. You don't know if you're paying MSRP and they're just expecting more down payment out of you. So it's okay and it's absolutely fine to negotiate first. See what's the best deal you're gonna get. TrueCar is a very good source. I mean, you should get an idea what the market is paying on this leasing, and then incorporate that sale price that you just negotiated back into the lease. Now it's very important because this is a true way for you to really get a good deal and not pay MSRP or play with the numbers back and forth.
Yeah, you lock in the sale price, right? Then you're the one that's in control. It's not the dealership, right? So keep that in mind. Negotiate that first, lock that in, and then work on the monthly payment. Do it in that order.
So this is it. These are the 5 most important things you need to know before you lease your next car. These are really good tips. Once you actually do all 5 of these, you will know that you're getting a good deal because the dealer will share their information with you.
Hopefully this is going to give you the confidence that you need when you go into the dealership. We got a lot more great tips for you to share. Please subscribe to our channel. We're giving you the point of view from the inside. We're also consumers, but we're in the business too. So stay tuned. We have a lot more things to share with you. We'll see you guys in the next video.